Psychetruth. Life, wisdom.
Does eating fat really make us fat? Or are low-fat diets just a low-fat trap? In this video, you're gonna find out. These days, you can find a low-fat or fat-free version of just about any food that you could think of. So I want to start by asking you, which do you think is healthier and which do you personally eat? Butter or margarine? Go ahead, leave your vote. I'm really anxious to know where you guys sit. Before watching this video, which one do you think is healthier, butter or margarine? I also am kind of interested to know what you think in terms of what are the foods that make us fat and are contributing the most to weight gain and difficult weight loss. There is a whole camp of people who feel that fats are what make us fat. And then there's another section of the population who believes that it's carbs that make us fat. So again, I would love for you to weigh in here and let me know what you think. Is it fats that make us fat, or is it carbs that make us fat? Now I'm going to hop into my 10 different points about fats that I think are incredibly crucial to anyone trying to get healthy or lose weight. So let's go ahead and dive right in. The first thing I want to do is make a distinction between bad fats and good fats. So the bad fats would be the typical bad fats that we think about, fried foods like French fries and donuts. And these bad fats certainly should be minimized in a healthy diet and certainly should be minimized if you're trying to lose weight. But the good fats oftentimes get kind of lumped in with the bad fats and have kind of gotten a bad rap, in my opinion. So the good fats are going to be the fats that are naturally present in natural foods, like avocados, nuts, and dairy products. So the first point that I want to make is that each of the different macronutrients has an important role in the diet. So that's carbohydrates, protein, and fats. And it's important to recognize that these different macronutrients have a different effect on the body and its metabolism. So for instance, carbohydrates get metabolized or broken down very quickly. So they actually are going to increase your blood glucose or blood sugar level more quickly than fats or protein. And what this means is that fats and proteins are a really great energy store in the body. And that's the whole purpose of fat in the first place, is to store up energy for later usage. So at the point that our body does not have enough fat present and available to burn up for energy, this is when we start getting signals that we're hungry and we're going to feel inclined to eat more food. So the first point that I want to make about fat is that fats help to fill us up and keep us feeling full and satisfied longer than carbohydrates. So if persistent hunger is something that we're struggling with, a really simple remedy can be to just add more fats into our diet. And similarly speaking, I believe that hunger is the #1 enemy of weight loss. So the more that we can satisfy our hunger, this is actually going to help us lose weight because we'll actually end up eating less food. But let's talk a little bit more about why fats fill us up and keep us satisfied longer. In my video on weight loss and blood sugar, I discussed the glycemic index of different foods. So the glycemic index is just a simple reference, a way of describing how quickly certain foods are going to break down into sugar and how quickly they are going to spike up our blood sugar level. Now, this is important for anyone with a consideration about diabetes, but it's also important for anyone with a consideration about weight loss and weight gain. Because these high glycemic foods that spike up our blood sugar levels very quickly are highly correlated with more weight gain. So these are your refined carbohydrates. And the low glycemic foods, okay, are your fats like avocados and nuts. Now, these low glycemic foods, because they metabolize more slowly or break down more slowly, are actually going to cause a slower and more steady rise in your blood sugar levels. And this is how they literally are keeping you feeling full and satisfied longer than the high glycemic refined carbohydrate foods. So cheesy poofs are a great example of a high glycemic food, okay? A refined carbohydrate food that's going to elevate our blood sugar level very quickly and is going to be correlated with weight gain. Now, on the other hand, we have nuts, okay? And so nuts are a great example of our low glycemic food. All right, so even though nuts are mostly fats, okay, because they are low glycemic, they're actually going to cause less weight gain than cheesy poofs or potato chips. So what I want you to understand is that because these foods have the naturally present fats removed from them, they end up having a bunch of chemical mumbo jumbo added into them. Okay, so we can just take a simple comparison of some of these ingredient lists. And what I want you to kind of get as the take-home message here is that these low-fat and fat-free foods are actually what I would refer to as toxic sludge. They are highly processed foods full of a bunch of crazy chemical ingredients. I would also call these frankenfoods, and let me show you why. So for the sake of comparison, the ingredients on my just plain regular butter here are cream and natural flavorings. And there are some butters that will really just be cream and salt, okay? Very simple ingredients. But on this Bluebonnet vegetable oil spread, not real butter, okay, margarine, our ingredients are vegetable oil blend, liquid soybean oil, partially hydrogenated soybean oil, water, salt, dried whey, vegetable mono and diglycerides, soy lecithin, potassium sorbate, sodium benzoate, phosphoric acid, natural and artificial flavor, vitamin A palmitate, colored with beta carotene, and flaxseed oil. So what I want you to take from this little comparison here is that here is a natural food with a minimal number of ingredients and no weird funky chemicals, right? We got the natural flavors, but compared to the number of funky weird chemicals in the margarine, it's just not even an even comparison, all right? So this is a highly processed Franken food, not something I would recommend for health or for weight loss. So while we're on the subject of toxic sludge, let's talk about Slimfast, okay? Now, really great marketing with the slim bottle design. Got to give them credit for that. But here we have a meal replacement drink that we're supposed to be able to drink in order to fill us up so that we can eat less food. That's the whole idea behind these types of meal replacement protein shakes. And we've done an entire video on products like these as well that you can reference. So if we look at the ingredients, okay, the first thing we see is fat-free milk. All right, and then we go on to have this long list of different flavors and preservatives, and it would take me 5 minutes just to read out all of the ingredients. But the point here that I want to make is, number one, if we are trying to have a drink or shake that's going to fill us up and prevent us from overeating other foods, having fat in that meal replacement drink is going to be way more effective than having a bunch of these crazy different chemicals and ingredients. Okay, so my first recommendation, if you're trying to fill up and satisfy your hunger, is actually to have some fats, not to have something that's fat-free loaded with a bunch of chemicals. And the second point would just be that all of these weird toxic chemicals in here are something I would avoid people taking in anyways. So in my opinion, Slimfasts are not effective for weight loss. But let's talk about what is. So as another comparison, let's compare these two different peanut butters. So here we have this regular crunchy peanut butter, and the ingredients are dry roasted peanuts. Simple. Couldn't be more simple than that. But this reduced fat, creamy, all right, peanut butter that's actually kind of looking like it's supposed to be healthier for us, all right? Again, you'll see things like light on the label, right? They're trying to market themselves as being healthier, but what happens when we look at the ingredient label? We've got roasted peanuts, corn syrup solids, soy protein isolate, sugar, molasses, salt, fully hydrogenated vegetable oils, folic acid, niacinamide, pyridoxidine hydrochloride, alpha tocopherol acetate, copper sulfate, ferric orthophosphate, magnesium oxide, and zinc oxide. So here you have a great example of what I consider to be toxic sludge. Okay, and so you are going to be 1,000 times better off to eat the peanut butter that just is made of peanuts than to eat this crazy chemical concoction here that's loaded with a bunch of chemicals. And several of these are harmful chemicals and preservatives that I've discussed in other videos. I'm not going to go into detail there here. What I just want you to get is toxic sludge, natural food. Can help fill you up and help you lose weight and is low glycemic, is not going to fill you up, is loaded with a bunch of crazy chemicals that are going to have other health implications for you. And because it doesn't fill you up, guess what? You're probably going to end up overeating anyway, and you've defeated the point of eating something light or fat-free in the first place. So in my opinion, fats have been demonized, and wrongly so. Now, I made the disclaimer at the beginning of the video, which is that there are some bad fats, like fried foods and donuts and French fries, which are bad for us and which we shouldn't eat. But unfortunately, all of these good fats also got lumped in there with the bad fats, and they've been demonized and removed from many people's diets. So what ends up happening? Okay, we're in a situation where we're eating low fat, we're eating fat-free foods. Now we have this problem of persistent hunger. And what ends up happening? We eat tons and tons of refined carbohydrates. And I see this time after time with my health coaching clients. Okay, they are like, I'm eating fat-free. I don't know what's going on. And then when we actually start talking about their diet, what I find is that they're eating all these fat-free foods. They're eating huge amounts of refined carbohydrates. So I talked earlier about how the refined carbs are high glycemic. They're highly associated with gaining weight, all right, and storing more fat. So one of the primary problems with a low-fat diet, and why I think it's a low-fat trap, is that eating low fat actually tricks us into eating more food, eating more calories in general than we would have eaten if we had just eaten the fat in the first place. In addition to fats helping to fill us up and prevent us from being hangry all the time, fats also offer a myriad of health benefits. And the first one I want to address is the health of our brain. All right, so when we think about our ability to think clearly and stay focused on things, this is really largely contingent upon the presence of these healthy dietary fats. All right, and having these healthy fats in our diet is really important for keeping our brain healthy. So case in point, many of the cholesterol-lowering drugs on the market have actually been found to cause brain hemorrhaging in the clinical trials and animal testing. Now, I do not condone animal testing, but I think it's really interesting that they found that when they were testing some of these cholesterol-lowering drugs like Lipitor on animals, they actually caused hemorrhaging of the brain. And it's because this cholesterol is really important for the health of our brain. So as we move down the body, we can talk about fats and the nervous system. Now, the nerves of our body, all right, so miles and miles of nerve cells that are connecting our brain to literally every other place in our body. Okay, all of these nerve cells are lined with something called a myelin sheath. And the myelin sheath is absolutely crucial to the proper functioning of our nerve cells and our nervous system. And guess what? The myelin sheath is made out of fats. So this is going to be something that really is important for everyone to consider, but specifically anyone with chronic pain type of situation, all right, any kind of nervous system disorder of any kind, and that's actually includes a lot of different ailments, okay, that people will have, is to understand that nervous system health, okay, the health of our nerves is highly correlated with these healthy dietary sources of fat. And what's more, every single cell in our body is encased in what's called a plasma membrane. And this plasma membrane contains a phospholipid bilayer. And that's just fancy schmancy talk for it's made out of fat. All right, so a large and very important component of every single cell in your body is made out of fats. And having these healthy sources of dietary fats, okay, healthy fats in our diet, is really important for ensuring that our cells are healthy. Now, I could do a whole video about the phospholipid bilayer, but the point I'm trying to make here is just to help you understand how fats are so crucial to our overall health. We also can consider omega-3 fats, all right? So omega-3 fats are an essential nutrient for the body, which means this is a body that is a body. We also have to consider omega-3 fatty acids. Now, omega-3 fats are what are considered an essential nutrient, all right? Something that is crucial, all right, for the body to function properly, but that the body cannot make itself. It can only be taken in through the diet. So, omega-3s are once again present in these natural, minimally processed foods. So chia seeds, hemp seeds, and flax seeds would be a great example. All right, and getting these omega-3 fats into our diet is something that there's growing understanding, growing awareness of the importance of having these fats. Now, kind of as an interesting aside, all right, we have omega-3 fats, which are an essential nutrient. There's also essential amino acids, all right, so that would be a type of protein, but there actually is no essential carbohydrate, all right? And I'm not trying to demonize carbohydrates here, I'm just trying to make a point, which is that fats, all right, and especially these good, healthy, natural fats are essential in the diet. And that's one of the reasons I think that eating low fat is a trap. So let me just talk for a moment about clogged arteries. All right, so normally we demonize cholesterol because cholesterol is what can clog our arteries. But what they're actually growing to understand now is that that's kind of only looking at half the problem. So what is it that makes us more likely to have clogged arteries or less likely? All right, what is it that's actually going to cause that cholesterol to get clogged or not? So there's something called advanced glycation end products, all right? And these are just the byproducts of metabolizing sugar, all right? So when you're eating sugar, when you're eating refined carbohydrates, you're gonna have elevated levels of these advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. And these AGEs kind of serve like sandpaper inside of our arteries, okay? They cause inflammation, all right? And just in general are going to kind of scuff up the surface of our arteries, so to speak, so that it's more likely that the cholesterol passing through gets stuck. All right, and again, this could be a whole topic for its own whole video, but I just want to illustrate how high levels of sugar and refined carbohydrates in the diet is correlated to arteriosclerosis or clogged arteries. And it's not necessarily the cholesterol itself that can take all of the blame for clogged arteries. So now I want to talk in just a little bit more detail about partially hydrogenated fats. And you may have noticed that partially hydrogenated fats were present in the margarine. They're present in the Slimfast. They're also present in Crisco. Okay, this little vegetable shortening here. All right, and so even though this says 0 grams of trans fats, if you actually read the ingredient label, what you'll see is partially hydrogenated oils. And these partially hydrogenated oils, those are your trans fats. And what they've found is actually that the trans fats or partially hydrogenated oils are the absolute worst fats for our health. All right, and when they look at the correlation of different fats with heart disease, it's not the saturated fats or the monounsaturated fats, or those other natural fats. It's those partially hydrogenated trans fats, which are most highly correlated with heart disease. All right, and I just want to reiterate that these absolute worst fats for us are present in almost all of the low-fat and fat-free foods. So we had them in the fat-free peanut butter or the reduced fat peanut butter, had them in the Slimfast, the margarine, and the Crisco, and those are the bad guys. All right, so avoiding these fat-free foods is actually going to help you avoid the worst of the fats. I want to thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to learn more about me, you can visit my website, CorrinaRachel.com. I look forward to seeing your comments, your question, and your feedback after watching this video. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you again next time. I want to invite you to join me at the Take Back Your Health conference. It's coming up in the middle of April in Los Angeles, California. This is an amazing opportunity to hear dozens of different speakers on a variety of health-related topics and a great chance to meet me and Courtney Bell. You can learn more information in the description below, and I hope to see you there so you can take back your health.